This video is brought to you by Haven, the platform that helps you strike back against AI. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and AI image generation has done such massive harm to artists, art itself, and society as a whole, that it would take much more time than a single video would allow me to communicate the full extent of it, which has been made abundantly clear by the number of videos that I've made discussing it, and the fact that even in all of them combined, I still haven't talked about everything. But because the ways in which it's done that harm are so overwhelmingly severe, it's easy to overlook the less major, significant, and dangerous impacts it's having. The ways it's shifting culture, both in and outside of the art community, so insidiously quietly that many don't even fully realize it's happening. Obviously, those bigger problems are more important. Art theft, plagiarism, unethical and malicious use, how easy it makes it to effectively spread misinformation and targeted hate, lost jobs, devaluation of art, the massive environmental impact. There's a good reason those are the problems that are the primary topic of conversation, and it's because they should be. Those are the biggest priorities that we need to be addressing, because the urgency of the threat they present is unparalleled. Even so, those quieter, less pressing problems resulting from artificially generated images, or AGI as I'll be referring to them for the duration of the video, are still worth discussing, because while their impact is less outright dangerous, it's still doing damage nonetheless. And one of the biggest of those lesser problems that I've been seeing more and more of in recent months is AI's influence on human artists. Not on our morale or employability, as I've already discussed at length in other videos, but on the very way we create our art in the first place, because that influence is much, much worse than most people realize, and it's time we talk about it and start taking action to resist it. But while we're on the topic of resisting AI, I'd like to introduce you to one of the most genuinely incredible, exciting partners I have ever had the opportunity to work with on the channel, Haven. AI has infected every corner of the internet, and I've talked a lot in recent videos about how it's become effectively impossible to find a social media platform that's free from that infection. In fact, most are actively endorsing and implementing it whenever possible, and there's no way to escape that. Or there wasn't until Haven. They're running a Kickstarter to build an anti-AI platform for sharing images in both long and short form video, very much like Instagram and YouTube, but without any of the AI features, surveillance, censorship, or malicious algorithms. In fact, it'll protect you from all of that. Every image and video posted to Haven is automatically poisoned against AI, meaning that it's edited in such a way that humans viewing it notice little to no change, but AI either can't learn from it at all, or even learns worse and deteriorates in quality as a result, so artists can share their work safely without it being stolen by generative AI models. It can be incredibly slow, difficult, and sometimes outright impossible to poison your art against AI on your own because of the graphics card it requires. So the fact that Haven automatically does it for you with no effort required on your part is an absolute game changer for artists. But while the benefits for artists are immense, I do want to clarify something important. This is not an art-based platform. It offers immense protections for artists and a safe haven for them to share their work with the world, but it's not just that. There are some great art-based social media platforms out there, but they all come with one significant downside. In catering solely to artists, they only attract artists, and regular users that just want a regular social media platform therefore aren't interested and don't join, significantly limiting engagement and reach for artists. Some refer to them as all performers, no audience platforms. That's not what Haven is. It's for everyone who wants safety, privacy, and free speech. All of the things social media has stolen from us for years. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about what's going on with TikTok's censorship of anything that its new owners don't like. And while it's the most severe iteration of this behavior yet, it's still behavior that's been going on for so long that it's reached a point where people can't talk about politics or world events without risking being silenced by platforms that want to keep those topics quiet. Even just topics that are mildly distasteful or uncomfortable. There's a reason creators say unalive constantly now. We have to. Platforms force us to. Now more than ever, we need somewhere like Haven that adamantly refuses to do the same, instead encouraging free speech and utilizing a clear, honest, openly explained algorithm that promotes content based on what it is and not how well it conforms to the worldviews of platform owners or the delicate sensibilities of advertisers. I'd also like to make it clear that while Haven is dedicated to protecting your right to free speech, it's not absolutist about it. It's just as dedicated to preventing hate speech, which is just as important in my opinion. Ultimately, in a video about how AI is infecting absolutely every part of our lives and our minds, and doing massive damage all along the way, there is no better sponsor than one that's building a space that's free from all of that. Whether you're an artist looking to share your work without feeding it right into the grubby little hands of whatever generative AI model wants to steal it, or just someone who wants freedom from surveillance, censorship, and unwanted AI tools that you're forced to use, Haven is the answer. And it might be the single most important Kickstarter I have ever supported or promoted. So know that when I back it and encourage you to do the same, I would be doing so whether they were sponsoring this or not. Even a pledge of just a few dollars will help bring this tool to life, and it's a tool that we desperately need. If you can't donate, it still makes a world of difference to share it on social media, spread awareness, and get this conversation going so that it reaches as many eyes as possible. I've linked the Kickstarter in both the description and the pinned comment, and I can't encourage you enough to please check out and support the project. It's not just a super cool thing that it would be great to have, it's a massively important thing that we need. Which brings me back to the topic at hand, one of the many reasons why we need it, the AI art style problem, which in and of itself is a bunch of words together that I don't necessarily agree with putting together. I would define what AI generates as images rather than art, and it's not capable of deliberately expressing images in its own style, so the implication that it has done so is, in my opinion, misleading. But for the sake of the conversation, is the most functionally effective way of referring to it, because AI image generators have developed a proclivity towards utilizing certain visual elements, and those elements have come to be so associated with it that they're recognizable in the same way that an artist's style would be. So forgive the term, but AI has, in that way, developed its own memorable and almost instantly identifiable style within every genre of art that it imitates. Anime, realism, semi-realism, surrealism, cartoon, impressionism. Despite the wide spectrum of styles that it's become terrifyingly effective at imitating, it maintains the use of certain stylistic elements throughout almost all of them. They're almost universally present, as models appear to have seen so many of them in their training data that they consider them to be the average, standard, or summary of what art is supposed to be, and now they're just applying them to everything. Some of those stylistic elements include very smooth, glassy, shiny, plastic-like textures that it applies to every surface regardless of what it is, be that hair, skin, fabric, whatever. Very soft line art, when line art is present, that is, that often blends into the surrounding color, oversaturated and high contrast colors, a flat, head-on, eye-level perspective in every piece, a halo of bright rim lighting surrounding every subject regardless of light source, largely because it can't understand the concept of light sources well enough to apply one globally, and highly blended over-rendering. And those are just some of the elements that are so omnipresent in AGI that they've come to be viewed as parts of its style. Not all of these stylistic elements are, individually or altogether, necessarily bad or visually unappealing, obviously excluding the outright mistakes it's also associated with, like botched anatomy or muddled details. A lot of them actually look really nice, even when they are technically incorrect, because AI can't understand what technically correct even means. That constant halo of rim lighting on all of its subjects is often wrong, because it's applied to settings in which it wouldn't be present in reality, given accurate light sources. But it still looks really pretty, and it creates an incredibly appealing contrast despite being incorrect. It's not unlike when real artists do the same thing. We stylize and exaggerate and make mistakes on purpose because we like the way it makes our work look, even if it breaks fundamental rules. The anime art style is one of the most popular in the world right now, and it regularly breaks the vast majority of fundamental rules through heavy exaggeration of proportions and cell shading that isn't even remotely indicative of how light interacts with different subjects or textures. Artificially generated images still manage to look pretty, sometimes at least, despite being full of technical inaccuracies, for the exact same reason, maintaining the charm of those stylistic elements that it so relentlessly employs, even when viewed by those educated enough to understand that they're being employed wrong. And I mean, of course the AI art style isn't categorically unappealing. Of course it often looks good. All of the elements that define it as being appealing were stolen from real human artists who utilized them in their work that it was trained on. In fact, these elements are really only effective and aesthetically pleasing in AGI when they're accurately reminiscent of that human art, and strike us as amateurish, uncanny, tacky, and even cheap when they aren't. It's almost even more upsetting that a lot of artificially generated images do manage to look pretty by utilizing these elements with that in mind. AI is only able to make that happen because it learned from us without us consenting to teaching it. But that's a point we need to pay a lot of attention to here. Everything that makes artificially generated images look good is owed to the human artists that AI stole from. Well, I say AI. It doesn't have intention. It can't steal. I mean the people who made it. All of the stylistic elements that we associate with the quote-unquote AI art style were present in human art first, albeit in different ways and combinations, and so frequently that that's why AI utilizes them at all. Generative AI models are predictive. They base their output on what they determine to be the most likely response to what they've been prompted by. That means that everything that has now come to be viewed as indicative of the AI art style only exists in the AI art style because it was so overwhelmingly present and popular in human art beforehand that AI came to view it as the average. We made the AI art style. AI just stole it and corrupted it. And boy did it ever corrupt it. Because now, despite the fact that those stylistic elements were derived from and present in a great deal of human art, they've now been so heavily associated with AI that even their presence in human-made art is met with suspicion and distaste. Which brings us to the problem I'm here to discuss, that artists are now afraid to make art that looks like AI, even when the style AI is known for was ours first. To address why, we need to look at both of those responses to the AI art style, suspicion and distaste. Let's start with the former, since it's the more prevalent motivation. Because those stylistic elements are so pervasive in AGI, they've come to be viewed as red flags that are indicative of AI use. I even referenced some in my video about identifying it, solely because of that overwhelming and undeniable prevalence. Which, as is the case with many things I discuss on the channel, is a double-edged sword, because sometimes those stylistic elements are indicators of AI use. Other times, however, they're indicators of nothing more than stylistic choices humans made long before AI existed in this capacity. Even so, it really doesn't matter anymore, because culturally they've become so associated with AI that even when they're present only because a human chose to include them because they liked how they looked, that inclusion alone now presents a risk that their work might be met with unwarranted scrutiny. The AI art style took the most popular elements of human art and turned them into its signature, and now artists who use them, the things they invented, have to fear suspicion in response. I've experienced it myself. Recently, I had the amazing opportunity to participate in the Cat of Many Tails zine, based on Bungo Stray Dogs' Gaiden. I spent almost 2 months making my piece for it, despite innumerable hurdles making doing so borderline impossible, and still managed to finish it. But when I posted sneak peeks of it to the channel to promote sales, I got a comment. Not just one, and it was the only one expressing this sentiment, so I don't mean to misrepresent it as the majority. But it said, "These are lovely pieces, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to enjoy art without looking at it with suspicious eyes of AI use. I know damn well you don't use AI, but my brain automatically went into a check to see if this was AI. And it's sad. Think I may need to consume paintings from art galleries IRL. This whole AI issue's got me effed up." And they're completely right to feel that way. I quote that commenter with the utmost understanding of why they do. It made me take a second to look at my own previews through that lens, and I saw the same AI red flags that I'm sure they saw that prompted that suspicion. I used smooth textures regardless of the subject. I used high contrast rim lighting. I limited my line art and blended it in some places, and I used vibrant colors. All of that is now indicative of AI, even though it shouldn't be. They were being perfectly reasonable to comment that and express suspicion. And if I viewed it without the bias of having made it, I probably would have felt the same way. And it's not just them and me. Jazza, a prominent art YouTuber, recently made a video clarifying his revised stance on AGI, now informed by recent developments and criticisms, and amongst many other topics, cited a personal anecdote about his experience watching the trailer for a film called Wildwood, saying, "This very opening frame, just the split second when I was flicking through TikTok, my brain went, ugh, AI. And I could have kept scrolling, but if I did, I would have missed something really special, because what actually proceeded to play was one of the most inspiring displays of craft and artistry I'd ever seen. Go watch the trailer to Wildwood, it's fucking amazing. It looks so good, and it makes me really want to try stop motion to a more ambitious extent." At the end of watching the whole trailer, which thank God I stayed to watch, I was like, oh good, there are still craftspeople out there. But it broke my heart that my gut reaction to the split-second first moment of seeing it was a lack of trust, was of skepticism, and that alone is harmful to art and creators. He was inclined to scroll past a real, legitimate, human-made piece of art solely because of the first few seconds of it that he perceived, because those seconds contained so many visual and stylistic elements typical of AI that it raised enough red flags to warrant suspicion. And he wasn't even wrong, because it's so difficult to identify AGI these days that relying on those indicators is one of the only options we have left. But those stylistic elements were present without AI use, because they aren't always indicative of it, and still nearly dissuaded someone, and a massive appreciator of art no less, from appreciating it based on association alone, by no fault of his own. There is so much warranted fear of being falsely accused of AI use, especially given how difficult these accusations often are to disprove, that there's now pressure to avoid using anything even remotely similar to the AI art style, even when the artist would normally prefer to do so because they like how it looks. I feel it myself. My initial response to that comment was to think, oh shit, I need to change my art style to look less like AI, even though I don't want to because the ways it resembles AI are actually visually appealing to me. And even I'm in a position of privilege here. You guys are watching this. There's a speed paint in the background. You're watching me draw, and at least some of you do regularly. The sneak peeks that I posted that faced that scrutiny of AI use, I'm gonna be putting the speed paint where I drew the full piece in a video as soon as zine sales are closed and I'm allowed to, and you guys will be able to watch my process and compare it to the speed paints that you've seen before to confirm that I didn't use AI to generate it. A lot of people don't have that degree of visibility. They post art, it's accused of being AI generated on a massive scale, and it's only that one post that people pay attention to, because it went viral. Even if that artist posts a speed paint afterwards proving human authorship, it might not even be noticed. Plus, if they aren't regularly posting speed paints, people won't be familiar with their process, which might prompt further accusations that the speed paint was faked. If I was in that position, I might actually change my style anyway out of fear alone. It's not worth the risk of being accused with no proper manner of defense. And when it comes to the distaste factor, I mean, it may be a less pressing motivation, but it's still a big motivation. If human-made art is viewed so much less favorably when it resembles the AI art style that artists now now feel unable to utilize similar elements without facing similar unfavorability, how is that influencing our creativity and personal preferences? AI uses rim lighting, as I mentioned, rather indiscriminately because it can't understand when it should or shouldn't be used. I used rim lighting in that piece I mentioned earlier, but I did so because it was backlit by the sunrise. It made sense. Even so, despite that, I felt uneasy doing so, knowing that that was now a stylistic element typical of AI. That comment has now completely reinforced that anxiety, one that I must reiterate was very understandable. That's not the commenter's fault. Now I feel like rim lighting has just become taboo, unable to be used anymore without prompting not just suspicion but dislike. Even though using it was the correct choice in that setting and it looked better, at least in my opinion, it felt wrong. My own appreciation of my art was tainted by the perceived AI art style. One of the more widely relevant examples I can think of is what was popularly referred to as the AI piss tint. After the Ghibli AI art trend's overwhelming prevalence, discussed further in a previous video linked in the iCard above, the number of people using Ghibli-style AI image generators to create Ghibli-esque images and profile pictures skyrocketed. And since they were all shared online, it's been assumed that AI started training on them disproportionately frequently and implementing their features, the most common of which was a yellowish tint of the color palette. As a result, that's become associated with AI now, when it used to be associated not only with Studio Ghibli, but also any art intended to be perceived as warm, aged, or rustic. Now it's just yet another AI red flag that others can't use, another thing of ours that now belongs to machines. I can't remember the specific Reddit post, but the original poster shared two versions of one piece of art that they had created, of either a crow or a raven, I'm not sure, alongside their original reference photo, asking which one people preferred. One version was yellow tinted, and the other wasn't. The yellow tinted version was much truer to the original reference photo than the other, and most commenters, at least when I was viewing the post, preferred it. But a lot of them also said, it looks more like AI though, so I would go with the other one. They chose the one they liked less because it reminded them less of AGI, and not even because they thought it looked better, but because they thought OP would face less backlash when sharing it. They chose what they thought looked worse because it looked less like AI, because looking less like AI is more important now than looking good. I didn't even know how to respond to that, and I still don't. AI is pressuring artists to change their styles, which themselves were stolen by AI because they were popular and well received enough to represent the majority of its training data, to the detriment of both artists and art as a whole. And it puts me in a difficult position, because I feel the same suspicion and distaste motivating all of this, while still also loving those aspects of human-made art when I know it's human-made, and while still wanting to incorporate them into my own work. I don't want to let that comment make me change my style, especially because I know it wasn't intended to suggest that I should. It was a commentary on the state of AI, not art. None of us should feel pressured to change our work just to avoid it looking like AI, when the truth is that AI looks like our work. But even knowing that, I still feel that pressure, and so do many, many others. Making art feels like it's becoming less about sitting down and thinking about what you want to draw and how you want to draw it, and more about planning around the ways you have to avoid drawing it if you don't want your rendering style or your color palette or your lighting looking just similar enough to AI to open the door to accusations. It's like some weird new form of forced self-censorship. Conversely, in some ways, maybe that'll be beneficial. Human artists might be prompted to pursue more experimental styles and techniques that AI is very unlikely to utilize, which might result in the more creative, unique, out there work that we need now more than ever to remind us that that's what art is supposed to be, or at least supposed to be allowed to be. Even if it's just to prove to viewers that a human made it, it might prompt a new appreciation for things that are different. After all, AI generates nothing but sameness. Compared to that, art that might once have been demeaned and disliked for being too strange, experimental, or abstract might now be viewed as refreshing and monumental, as it should be. But I don't like the idea that the opposite is wrong, that human-made art that's similar to the AI art style is now bad just because it's similar, and not doing something new and experimental and revolutionary. But unfortunately, that is the view that's become the more prevalent of the two as of late. Suspicion directed towards those stylistic elements that have now become indicative of AI use is more than warranted, as is distaste towards it because of the mental associations that we've made. But it's important to make an active effort to make a distinction between a stylistic element that AI stole from humans and deserves to be reclaimed, and one that indicates AI generation or assistance with certainty. Even if you don't want to make that distinction when just casually viewing art, at least make it before accusing an artist of using AI based on that alone. And that includes passing comments of, this looks like AI. No, AI looks like it. And if those AI art style elements are present in addition to typical AI errors, and a weirdly varied, random, and inconsistent range of styles demonstrated by the artist who posted it, that might mean something. that might be circumstantial evidence of AI use. But circumstantial evidence on its own doesn't mean anything in almost any case. And if none of those other indicators are present, perhaps extend the benefit of the doubt, because failing to do so is only going to further bolster anxieties from artists about their work too closely resembling AI. And all that results in is the stifling of their creativity and personal preferences. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Haruki Saluzzo, Extinction Animation, Andy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz, Just Sayori, Hailstorm, Darkholder, Another Foxboy, Palestar, and Cyber Tori, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, MG, Blawmage, TC Pratt, Celine Moongazer, Eldritchia, The Stray Dog, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Catbus, Lucia Majiki, Selena Beebe, Pride A, Peel, Wingtang Wong, Marie Greer, Potato, Jazz, Voidwalker, Latte Tabby, Christian Cook, Adam Sorovietz, Doriaki, Tharius, Hailstorm, Emo Queen Jules, Show, That's It, Craig, Scarlet Flame 234, The Names Are Gone, Luwuka Owo, and Art of Amethyst Fable, and I'll see you in the next one.